Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hi, I'm Kenna Danielle, and you are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
And everybody, you're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show, and also watching it. If you're watching YouTube, we're live on YouTube and live on Lone Star Community Radio Facebook, and 106.1 on the radio FM and 104.5 FM, and you can listen to us that way if you want. But we'll be right back up on YouTube as soon as the show is over live. We'll be back, and we'll be there for eternity. So if you want to watch that. Now, I had announced yesterday that Jimmy Cirillo, Jimmy the C, would be on with me to talk about the Astros, because we haven't really talked about their winning the World Series yet. But after the election yesterday, Jimmy called me and said, "Look, you know what? I'm in such a terrible mood. I just don't think I could get on there without saying bad words or cursing while I'm talking to you. And I don't want to do that to your show. So can I come back some other time? Please don't be mad at me." And I went, "I'm not mad at you. That's fine." And I totally understand, because this morning I found out that the appointment I had with my doctor is for a stress test. Of all things, of all times, for me to have to do a stress test was after the election, and staying up all night watching, different things that happened that you didn't want to happen. But we had some good things and some bad things. It'll be okay. But anyway, that's what I had to go do. And but I'm here, and I thought, I should bring not the next best thing, but the very best thing. It's been around longer than Jimmy the C, and it has more experience and knowledge about the Astros going way back, is my husband, Sam Cochran. Hello, Sam. How are you? Act like it's the first time you'd see me. I know, it's been amazing. It seems like it was just yesterday. And he's not blind or anything like that, but he's just a very cool guy, and he's got these sunglasses on because there's the light's so bright overhead. And so I just wanted to let you know he's just naturally cool like that. Okay, so you were going to get to explain, because I remember a lot of this too. You're only 7 years older than I am, so I can still remember a lot of this stuff that happened before the Astros were the Astros. So start back from what they were called before the Astros. Get ready, get set, go.
Well, they were called the Houston Buffs, and they varied depending on what year it was between a AA and a AAA baseball team as far as the classification was concerned, and they were part of the St. Louis Cardinals organization. So quite a few of the players off the Houston Buffs became very famous players for the St. Louis Cardinals. One, probably the most famous of all, was Dizzy Dean. Most people have heard that name.
Sure.
He was a real famous pitcher.
Yeah.
He pitched for the Houston Buffs. And there were numerous other famous St. Louis Cardinals that played for the Houston Buffs.
But what were the St. Louis Cardinals? Were they using the Buffs as a farm team or something, and then they pulled?
It wasn't much different than it is today. They do the same thing. Like the Astros, for example, Corpus Christi is one of their farm clubs. They've got several others. I can't think off the top of my head exactly where the others are, but I mean Corpus Christi would be a good example.
Well, when did the Buffs break away and become?
I think even the what do they call them, the Skeeters over on the other side of town, over in Sugar Land?
Yes.
I think they're a farm club of the Astros, which means basically that the Astros own all those players. and they draw from those players
Okay.
as they mature. So they're sent down there when they draft them to the minor leagues, and the Buffs were the same thing. The Cardinals would draw on the Buffs, and anyway, the Houston Buffs were where the interest in baseball in Houston. That's where it developed, and it was. The Buffs were very popular. I mean, it was hard to find somebody in Houston. Of course, the Houston I was born into in 1942 was 250,000 people.
Oh, my
If you
word.
can believe that.
No.
Okay.
250,000.
250,000 people. There's that many probably in
On our block.
Conroe proper.
Yeah.
You know, now.
Well, when did they become the Colt 45s?
Well, they didn't become the Colt 45s. I mean, it was a franchise that was a new franchise that was developed into the National League, and you may remember. You're old enough to probably remember when they had contests and whatnot on how to name or what the name of the baseball team was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the name Colt 45 came from out of that contest.
But I wonder today, they could have never kept that name. Everybody's so sensitive about the names and what the names draw, a picture it draws.
You can't compare anything today
right.
to that era back then. Believe me.
Well, so the Colt 45s were, how long did they last before we
Only
built
about
the dome?
3 years. They were only there for about 2 or 3 years before the Astros came along.
Well, do you remember that in the Foley's building, the Fingers building, off the freeway,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the stadium was that they played, and they kept the home plate there, and you can go, when you would go into Fingers, you could go stand on the plate where the Colt 45s played.
Mm-hmm.
That was
That's
pretty
exactly
cool.
where it was, out off the Gulf Freeway.
Yeah.
That's where Buff Stadium was.
Mm-hmm.
And any little boy, you ask him where Buff Stadium was that lived in anywhere near Houston, I guarantee you he could tell you.
Right.
And anyway, whenever the Colt 45s came along, they tore the stadium down and the Buffs ceased to exist. But they built that Fingers store there. It was a huge furniture store, which a lot of people probably aren't aware of now because even Fingers has gone away.
Yeah, that's been torn down. I wonder what they do with the home plate.
I don't know, but it was there for years. It was right there in the middle of they had a little museum area roped off there, and it was right in the middle of the furniture store.
And during that time, my cousin, Ed Henderson, and his brother were enamored with the teams and all that. And so when they started building the Astrodome, the electronics and what they were going to do, there's going to be like everybody was so excited when they saw this because they hadn't seen it in any other stadiums. This was highly unusual, and he's the one that created the charge guy with the sword, and he created some other things where they'd run across.
You do the
Anytime
bull?
that,
Did he do the bull?
He did the bull, and the train was the deal. The train, whenever they'd hit the home run, he'd do the train. That was animated, but then now they have like a real train, or they had a real train that would
Well,
go
I think
around.
they still have the bull, don't they?
I think they show the charge guy, and they show
Every once in a while, I think they show the bull too.
and what he didn't understand was royalties. So it was like if he could have gotten that, but he was so excited to be able to get to be a part of that, and the animation part of it and stuff was really cool. But anyway, so that happened when they built that up and it became the Astros. At that time, you would have been how old? 62?
Well, I'd have been about 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
In 62, well, no, wait a minute. In 62, I would have been 22.
Okay. And I was only 3, so no, I'm kidding. I was a little older than that. But I remember when they had the contest about naming, again, they had the contest to name the team because they were threatening to call it call them the astronauts, and everybody hated that. They thought that was really stupid, and they thought that they could wear the helmets and things like that, and it was just terrible. Whoever was marketing that part, but remember Hoffines was a big deal in that.
Roy
And
Hoffines.
yeah, and he had big suite, huge gaudy suite in the Astrodome, and I think a lot of people, I mean, now just think about how many kids have never walked through the Astrodome, and that was such a big deal, to have that dome and to be covered, and where the ball can't even go outside of the stadium.
Well, big deals are all relative.
True.
I mean, you take my old dad that was born in 1912. It was a big deal just to see an airplane fly over. I mean, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was in the newspaper in the local town.
that
Big
airplane.
big deals are just relative to the times.
Yeah.
The Astrodome was, it would take your breath away then.
Mm-hmm.
Now people would go, well, we're going to have to get a new bond issue. This is not going to work.
Yeah, right. We have to have something bigger and better.
But it took my breath away the first time I walked into it.
Well, I remember when there was a guy that was working on the ceiling, and he fell from the top of the dome, and of course died. But it was a big thing, like when that happened, and that they were so excited about this, they couldn't wait to have concerts and the rodeo in there and have the people come, and then they do that and find out that it echoes so bad. There's such a delay in when you sing something or when you hear the musicians, you've got to and had to work all that out because there was a lot of bugs in it. Do you remember that?
I remember every bit of that. And again, that was all relative to the times. People were willing to accept it because that was as good as it got, And things changed a lot slower back in those days.
True.
They didn't change every millisecond. It took several years for things to change.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people get real impatient if things don't change instantly.
Right. No, that's
They
true.
want their way, and they want it now.
That's true. It's like whenever I was editing at Time Warner, and they put down this rule, like you need to change the images every few seconds. They give you about 7 seconds. You had 7 seconds to change to a new image, or we'll lose the people watching. And by the time I left, it was down to 2 to 3 seconds. And now it's like just try and watch. Because during the 70s, I think it was maybe the late 70s, that they started kind of experimenting with that. And they put all these images up on the screen at one time. And it was like this guy was walking out of the building while the person that's going to murder him is walking, into the room waiting for him. So they were telling the story with all these images all over it. It was crazy because you'd get so confused on what to look at and to know what was going to happen. But they thought that was pretty cool, so they did that for a while. I don't see that kind of editing anymore myself.
It's not going to do anything except to get more progressive relative to that, because that's just apparently the way things go. That's the way the world works.
Well, you know how you say whenever you're at home and you're watching, you watch these different series like Yellowstone and things like that, and you go and Better Call Saul and all those shows you feel like are better than the movies that you go into and pay an exorbitant amount of money to go in the movies. You'd rather stay home and watch those, right?
Yeah, because so much of the movies are just about artistic expression and not really telling a story.
Right.
How many cars you can crash and how many times you can try to outdo the bullet scene of 1972.
Right.
With Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
Every movie since then has had to stick one of those in someplace. I mean, it can be a love story, and they got to get in the car and race down the street somewhere.
Well, that was during the late 20s and 30s and 40s. They had car chases, and because that's how they dealt with things in the street, they'd shoot each other up and try and...
Yeah, but from the artist's viewpoint, the Steve McQueen thing was...
Yes. That was
the cornerstone.
Right. It was a whole lot
Everybody's been
better.
trying to top that since,
True. That's true. But the Astros, anyway, so the Astros get in the dome, and we go to.
Well, they didn't get, first of all, you bypassed, almost anything that, no pain, no gain, okay? So Houston got a major league team, the Colt 45s, and it was in a open ballpark, which was basically just a bunch of bleachers.
Right.
A couple of concession stands, pretty much like a high school football stadium, where the Astrodome sits, approximately where it sits. And you'd go out there and you'd sit and you'd sweat the mosquitoes that eat you up and all that type of thing. But you had Major League Baseball, so it was worth it. And but again, even back then, people weren't willing to put up with that too long. Not in the Houston climate.
Right.
So that's why we wound up with having the first dome stadium, because you weren't going to get 50 or 60,000 people to come out to a game and sit there, and be eaten up by mosquitoes and sweat through your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So there was 3 years of a little pain, and then the gain came whenever the bond issues got voted through and whatnot, and the dome got built. And it was quite a revolutionary experience to go in and watch a sporting event in an air-conditioned environment. Couldn't say smoke-free, though.
No, there was so much marijuana. I can remember going like,
marijuana.
No, there was. Are
Well,
you kidding? Yes, there
wasn't
was.
a lot of marijuana. There was mostly nicotine.
There was nicotine.
I mean, everybody smoked back in those days.
But
so there was a cloud hanging in the top of the dome there.
But I was sure,
smoke.
I might experience my first high after sitting through one of those games, because the people in front were smoking weed and all that would blow back in your face. But it was interesting, and the musicians and the music, they finally started getting a little bit better with the sound, but it never really was the same. And then they started taking the stage and turning it around, and you go like, okay, it was bad enough just sitting by itself and getting the sound right. Now you're going to turn it around and spin it around, and it's not going to make it work. And I got to, I guess, experience that firsthand, because it was the month was Deaf Awareness Month, and so they called on me to come out and sign the national anthem. And they said, now this is, and before I go, I'm standing in the wing there, and before I go out on the ground, they say, now let's explain something to you, is that the sound's going to come at you, and it's not going to come at you probably at the right time. So you know the song, right? I mean, you understand, when the changes come and all that stuff. That's going to be good, because you're not going to hear it at the right time. And I'm going, I'm not going to what? As I'm walking out, and they go like, just try and stay up with it. It was horrible because it was so delayed. But then I started thinking, you know what? Anybody that's watching this, if they are hearing impaired, will think, oh, great, they're signing the song, and they're not hearing this delay that I'm hearing, and trying to figure out where we are in the song. But it was such a great experience, because Chad got to run through the dressing rooms and got to stand on the field and all that. So that was quite a big deal to get to do that, to come and stand on that field. And it was fake grass.
The Astros were part of his birthright. I mean, he was born going to Astros games and going out there to things that you did, when you were with the media and all that type of thing.
Right. But it was so much fun, and we did have a lot of good times there watching the U of H and the Astros, and I don't know if did we ever see the Texans play there? I don't think so. But
I don't think so. The Oilers.
The Oilers. Yeah, the Oilers. Yeah, of course. Hello. The Oilers. But this year, I think I ever was so involved and invested as I was this year. Because usually I just come in at the very end of when their season or when they're playing and sit for a couple of innings and go like, okay, that's nice, and then go back to the house. So it was so much fun to sit and watch all those and be so, right really on the edge of your seat, because you never knew what was going to happen it drove me crazy because it was fun, but it was really very stressful.
Well, it'd be even more fun if you'd suffered through the whole 70 years of development to get to that point, like I did.
Yes, that's true. Chad would get so mad. My son would get so mad. He goes, "Don't say you're an Astros fan if you just come in at the last minute, and when they're doing good, then you come and watch them. You're not an Astros fan. You're an Astros fan when you have to put up with everything they do wrong, and when the good times and the bad times." So he took it personally.
If you watch a team, it's like, what would help you maintain your interest, even though you knew the odds were really stacked against them winning when you went out to watch them when they first got started, was that they did have some good ball players. They had Bob Espremani was, I believe he was a shortstop, and then they had a guy named Doug Rader. He was. These were all guys on the initial teams. Within the first 4 or 5 years. And they were good ball players, and it was fun to watch them. Bob Watson was an all-star. I think he was a first baseman. And he went on to actually be, I think maybe the baseball commissioner or something like that later on. But over the years, they had Cesar Cedeno. They had a bunch of guys that were really good all-stars, but they just never did put together a good team, not up until the late 70s. And I think we went out to see a playoff game that they played in that they almost won the playoff. I believe it was against the Phillies, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, how funny. And this was it. The Phillies, each time there's a team from the East, you get this feeling of intimidation, like they're going to whoop up on you because of New York Yankees and all that stuff. But this year was so different. And the Astros come back from the scandal that everybody said happened, and we're not sure it all happened, but it was a revenge type of thing as well, right? Didn't you feel that way through the whole playoff season?
Well, I felt that way about the Yankee situation. I'd love to see them beat the Yankees because the Yankees whined so much because of the garbage can deal, the sign stealing thing. And when you watch baseball every night or listen to it every night, like I did for most of my life, sign stealing was a part of the game.
Right.
Okay. So whether you did it electronically or whether you did it, by visual means, it doesn't make any difference. You're still stealing the sign from the guy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big deal that the media whipped into a huge thing that really probably had very little, if anything whatsoever, to do with whether they won or lost.
Right.
Okay. That could have made a difference on 1 or 2 pitches, but probably not really. I played baseball myself, and you don't have a lot of time to think. So, they talk about all these philosophies about hitting and everything, and a lot of them are probably legitimate, but when it comes right down to it, you better have real good reflexes and real good hand-eye coordination.
Right, of course.
And hit. So anyway, I think this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt, because you've still got basically the nucleus of that team. You've got 5 or 6 players from that team, the stars, that are still there, okay? And they made the Yankees look silly.
They did.
And so, all that whining and everything, if this doesn't put it to bed, it's only going to be for one reason, and that's because the media just keeps putting embers back on the fire and fanning the flames.
Right. But this was great. It was just so wonderful that they came back home and won it here. And
I'd say this, and I think probably a lot of baseball experts would agree with me, as far as the entire Astros pitching staff is concerned, including the starting pitching all the way through the relief pitchers and the closer, that's probably the best pitching staff that's ever been put together by any Major League Baseball team.
Right.
Now,
and
whether they'll be able to hold it together or not,
they're giving Dusty.
I'd say probably not, but
they're going to give Dusty 1 more year. I don't understand why they came out and just said a year. Is that?
It's probably all he wants.
Oh,
he wants it at his age. He just wants 1 year at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
Yeah, well, sure.
I'll settle for a week at a time.
Yeah.
On anything I commit myself to at my age.
Well, I think I think Dusty deserves it, and I'm so excited that he has, he's got that to look forward to, and that he'll be back because he was so popular. Everybody
Well, you got
loved
to give the
him.
players a lot of credit, Altuve and all the
Yes.
rest of those guys, because they put up with that stuff. They would go to New York, they'd get jousted, and other teams used it as an excuse too when they would lose to the Astros. A lot of the other teams in the league, and the Dodgers did too. The Dodgers whined as loud as the Yankees did about getting beat by the Astros. So that should put it to. It's not going to, but it should put it to bed.
Well, I mean, our credibility must have gone up in some way with this, because we kept coming back, and if they get one run, they started getting so cocky about it, and you knew that it wouldn't defeat us, but sometimes you get so scared that the guys are going to give up and just go like, "Well, let them have it. They can. I don't want to try this. I'm tired. We've just been flying back and forth, and you just were so afraid that they're going to give up, but they never did. They stayed with it, and they fought through so many of the things that would have just probably taken down any other team.
Yep, it was a very, very good team. No doubt about it.
It still is. And so, and to me, the things I took away from that whole playoff, in the World Series playoff, is that jump that McCormick made, and Alvarez's, when he did, it was like, yes, this is it. This is all we need. And
you couldn't have written a better script.
No, not at all. And it was perfect. And I felt no sorry for the Phillies, because the night before they'd made so much fun about Mattress Mac and was giving him trouble, and he got upset, and he had to apologize for how he said that wasn't my best moment. But those guys were so mean.
What was Mattress Mac's best moment?
Well, he said
Can you name me a real good Mattress Mac?
Well, he wasn't going to say anything bad about the Phillies fans, and he was trying to give them props at one point. But once they started bad mouthing Altuve, he said, "I couldn't take it anymore." It's like, that's our family. You don't do that, and he went crazy. But Mattress Mac has made a name for himself with those guys. And he's like known all over the world. They can't believe he would put up such money and gamble on that team, and it really paid off. What was that, like $75 million?
He put up 10 and won 75. Is what I heard. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not.
But when Mattress Mac came to Houston that first year, he put up $3 million and he made 30. So he gambled that, and if he hadn't done well, if it hadn't worked, that would have been it for him. So he gambled on that, that $3 million, and made the 30. And all the agencies and all that were just after him. They wanted his money to do the spots and buy the time and all that. And they said that he was the worst person in the world to work with, because he was so strict, and so he just kept trying to negotiate him down to nothing. And he could, I guess, he was able to do that. But he's certainly made a name for himself with the Astros, and now HEB has taken on the mantra, like the Astros and HEB. I thought when Willis got the new HEB, I thought there was going to be a star behind that H, because that's how it was on the commercial. I'm like, so stupid. They put that on there. They just, it was not a real star. It was just on there to make them remember how attached they were to the Astros. But they're very loyal to the Astros, and you see why. This was a good deal. And the manager, the GM, talked about all the snacks they sold during the game. That place would just fill up, and people would buy all the snacks. They did that at Kroger too. You could tell game night because of how all the snacks that were sold. And you and I ate our share of that during the World Series playoff. We had popcorn with a half a pound of butter on it, and then we had tuna dip, we had watermelon, we had fruit as well, but it was ridiculous. And because we were so nervous, we kept eating, right? Isn't that why?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I kept eating. No, I was just going to eat.
That has a lot to do with it.
No, but
I
it
think
was.
that's why a lot of fans eat in general.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so distracting from being so nervous
Of
about
course,
it.
it's always a good excuse to drink beer too, if you're at the game.
Yeah, we didn't do that, but it was a lot of fun, and it certainly gave us so much to do. And then as soon as the games were over, it's like Sam walked over to the back porch and was like I don't know what to do with myself now that we don't have the games to look forward to. That was it. But then we had
anticlimactic.
It was, but the election came along and just
And that's anticlimactic too.
as well. It really is. It was, but now what you have to look forward to is so exciting for you and all your friends. Sam has gone deer hunting every year. That when we first got married, he didn't deer hunt, and he said he would never go and kill Bambi. And I thought, oh, good. I'm so glad you're not like those guys that go out and that's all they do is shoot the poor deer. But he went with his friend one time. Carl took you, and it was like he tasted the blood, and it was like, okay, I love this. And so every time deer season came along, you were gone. You guys went and spent all that time hunting down those poor little deer, but you never shot a fawn, right? You never shot a fawn.
No.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
What's your point?
Well, because you at least said I'll never shoot Bambi, but you didn't tell me you wouldn't shoot the mom or the dad or the,
Well, the truth of it is, if you do it and it sticks, if you go hunting and it sticks, the true reason you continue to go for 53 straight years like I have
Mm-hmm.
has very little to do with killing deer.
It's the camaraderie and
It has a lot to do with the camaraderie, and it also has a lot to do with you get to practice self-reliance better there than you do anyplace else.
really.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then y'all sit around the fire every night and have your hot toddies and
Well, I mean, you do when you can. I used to do that, but haven't been able to tidy in quite a few years.
that's good. But they would come back with these deer stories, and they would tell these deer stories over and over and over again. And so one night we were sitting there, and they started the story.
But you see, those
remember?
stories are not for you. So you think they're silly, you think they're ridiculous,
But you
but
should.
to us, they're part of our culture.
Well, you could have
And
excused.
they're only really meant for us.
Well, you could have said, "Why don't y'all go in the other room while we talk about the
But
deer stories?"
you don't see us trying to tell you the story. We tell the stories back and forth to each other.
But see, when I kept hearing this, so I decided what we do is, with the girls, the women, the wives, let's give each story a number. So all y'all have to do is say, "Oh, you remember number 5," and that was where y'all went to the top of the mountain and shot the deers and stuff like that. But so that we wouldn't have to listen to the stories again, because it wasn't entertaining to us. I understand it was to y'all, and to this day, it's y'all's memories and everything about it. Nobody's written a book about how exciting the experiences are. Now, do you remember when
It
you...
wouldn't do any good to write a book about it and try
Why?
to sell it to someone who's already has preconceived ideas that they don't like it and it wouldn't interest them, and then there would be nothing in there for them.
Well-
So it wouldn't make any difference what the subject is if that's your attitude about it.
Well, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about people that love hunting and love going out and doing that kind of stuff. Because I remember...
The only way you learn how to love it is you go try it. And if it's
okay.
like a vaccination, if it takes, okay, then you do it. If it doesn't take, then you don't do it. It's
We had
that
just
simple.
gotten married, And all you talked about after going hunting with Carl, you was like, oh, this is so great, this is so great. And just talked about how wonderful it was. So I went with you, and at about 4 o'clock in the morning, you said, wake up, we've got to go out to the deer stand. And so we go out to the deer stand, and we're sitting there, and I'm thinking, this is so cool, it's so romantic. And so I start talking to him like, well, what if he goes, shh. And I go, well, I just want to know, shh, can't talk, you can't talk, okay? Just be quiet. And we're sitting there, it's 4:30 in the morning, it's pitch black, and waiting for the sun to come up so that you can see if there are any deer out there. And you can't talk. So it was like, this is what you think is fun? I couldn't find the fun in it at all.
Well, then you didn't go back, did
No,
you?
I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Well, that was your choice.
And I was so happy for you that you enjoyed
because
that.
you just explained your view of it.
Yeah,
All right.
right.
Well, that's not my view of it.
I know. I
And
do.
it's
I
not
do.
it's not the view of anybody that does it,
I do.
including your son.
No, I understand why
Who's
y'all
gone
love
with
it.
me almost every year of his life.
I mean, that's been the biggest bonding thing y'all have had, is to be able to do that. Because he'd come back and go, Dad is nothing like he is at home when he gets out there. He is so free, so relaxed. He just enjoys every minute of being out there.
Well, God
But-
forbid.
No, it's not that. I'm glad that you enjoyed that. But when we first married, it would make me mad because you were a traveling salesman, and so you'd be out for a week and come back for a week. And when you come back that week, then it was time to go deer hunting during November, and I couldn't believe you'd leave me after you'd been gone for a week. And my mother gave me such great advice. She said, "Look, Sam goes and he enjoys himself, and you want him to enjoy himself. So what you need to do is find things that he wouldn't want to do, when you were, y'all were together. He doesn't like to go to certain shows you like to go to. He doesn't want to go to the mall and all that. Go do that stuff, and then it won't be so bad. And you'll be happy to see him when he comes
run
back."
out of gas in your Volkswagen in really worst part of town, and
Oh, yes, that's
and
right.
blow the engine in your car on the Pierce elevated and
Yes,
stuff like that.
true. And
That you would wait till I was out of town to do.
yeah, that's right. And then call you and say, "Y'all got to come back." Because no, I never called you and said you had to come back. Did I? Ever? Did I ever say it? No.
I don't remember you doing that.
No.
But I do remember you calling me saying my car's broken and I'm on the freeway. What do I do? Come get me. You take care of it now. Buy
That's
me a new
right.
car now.
I need a new car now. That's right. No, well, of course, those things happen in life and in marriage, and I really do think that your deer hunting is good, and it saddens me to know that this is going to be your last deer hunting session. That
Well,
you're
it
gonna,
saddens me a whole lot more than it does you.
because you enjoyed it so much, and it was fun when you would it be enjoying yourself, and that I can go shopping or go do stuff, and while you were gone, it was, and then you'd have a surprise in the. No, I wouldn't do that. I didn't do that. I'm just glad that you have that. Now, Richard, what is it that you have that your wife, doesn't maybe understand, but she's more understanding now than she was when y'all first got married?
Oh, I would say pretty much anything I do. Yeah, pretty much anything I do.
That can't be true, Richard. Your poor wife. His wife is a nurse, and she's studying right now. She's in school and working, and she's in school and she's studying to be an RN or not an RN.
An RN.
RN.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the primo. That's what Sam's mother was. And so she's trying to do all of that, and then you can't give her any grief for anything. She just you just have to let her vent, right?
Pretty much.
That's good. See, she's taught you well. I think that's really good. I remember when they first started dating, it was great. I had so much fun with Richard talking about, when all that first starts happening. And you probably don't remember that, do you, honey? We first started dating. And what Sam loved about me is that he never knew what to expect. Isn't that right, honey?
Well, it's not the only thing I loved about you, but
Yeah.
that was one of the things.
Okay, there you go. See, so it was very sweet. And if you keep that up, then just imagine we've been married over 50 years. It'll be 53
Somewhere around there.
this year. Anyway, we got married in 1969, and so it's now 2022. I can't even subtract that. So anyway, we've been married long enough to know better, right?
I would hope so.
Yes, okay. But we know each other's. But what's weird is that a lot of couples, and this isn't giving marriage advice, but a lot of couples give up real quick. You know, like they can't stand it. They like, I don't even like the way you chew your food, or I don't. And so they're going to give up. Instead of pushing through and staying with that person for 50 years, you get a lot better. I mean, and everything gets better, don't you think? Don't you think we understand each other more better? More better?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. You're supposed to say, here's a script right here. You're supposed to say, oh, I know, and you get very frustrated with me because Sam was a salesman and would communicate with everybody. And he said, I do this for a living. I communicate with people all day long with living, and I'm trying to tell you something, and I cannot communicate with you. You don't understand what I'm trying to tell you. And he would get so upset with me. But so I learned how to accept anything you said and nod appreciatively.
And then go do what you were going to do anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that's how marriages survive. You know, you just
That's how this one survived.
you just finally give up trying to tell them something and just go like, okay, just do whatever you want to do. But you've always been there. You've always been there for me, and you took care of me. Sam was the nurse that took care of me through my quadruple bypass and my strokes and everything. Saved my life because he called the ambulance when I was saying, I'm not having a stroke. I'm okay. I just need some more water. I just need to drink some water. And he said, no, you're having a stroke. So he called and got me to the hospital in time. And so you saved my life like two distinct times that you saved my life. Oh, and that's right. And then when I overdosed on the, let me say this quickly, the insulin, and you called the ambulance. So you've always been there. It's so sweet.
It's my job.
And I love you for it.
What I said I'd do.
Yes, you did. You promised, and you kept your promise. I, on the other hand, sometimes would be to obey.
That used to be vogue.
What?
That when you said you were going to do something, you would do it.
Yeah, it used to be. You're right. That's true. No. So you could have never been a politician because people don't believe that anymore. They don't understand that.
I don't understand how people believe anything politicians say, quite frankly.
If they just open their mouth, we know they're lying. Yeah, you're right.
You just vote for them and hope that they do something good.
Well, that's what everybody's hoping for this time. And I don't see how it can happen because, I mean, I don't understand maybe the government as much as somebody like you understands the House and the Senate and how they work together and how they don't work together and how all the Republicans said, if we are in charge of the House and we're in charge of the Senate, then we can stop anything that Biden is going to try and put through that will hurt us or cause us to go into a worse recession than we're in. But he can still do executive privilege, sign things that he thinks this should be like codifying Roe versus Wade and that kind of thing. He's going to try and get things passed, and just by executive privilege, right? I mean,
I'm sure there'll be a certain amount of that.
And there's nothing that the Congress or the Senate can do anything about, right?
Well, unless the next time around it's a different regime gets in, and then they can change it.
But if the Congress is in charge of the purse strings, and they wouldn't fund whatever he did an executive privilege order for, could they do that? Could they not fund it?
Well, I don't know enough about it to sit here and talk like an expert, but if, for example, if they do get that controlling vote they're looking for in the Senate, the Republicans, they already have it in the, according to what I heard on the news this morning, they already have it in the House, then he just becomes a lame duck.
Lame duck, yeah. Yeah.
Which means that, he can do whatever he wants to do, but it's not going to have any real lasting effect. He can do things that will last the rest of his term.
Right. So as soon as he's out of there, that goes,
But
that's
what's going to
dead.
happen, a lot of them, they won't be constitutional.
Right.
Because a lot of these things they do by executive order are not constitutional. That's why they're doing them that way.
Right.
So they'll immediately go into suit. This would be true for any regime, whether it's Democratic or Republican. And then they'll go into suit, and then, that'll hold everything up and keep anything from happening. So it really, what happens when you get in a situation like this, it's just everything comes to a screeching halt. And now's not a good time for stuff to come to a screeching halt.
No, not at all. Well, somebody better figure out something.
Well, this is the worst actual inflation that has hit my pocketbook in my 81 years.
I agree. In my 74, and so, listen, we gotta stop this. We gotta quit meeting like this again. No, thank you so much for coming in and saving the day. I appreciate it so much. And Jimmy, because Jimmy felt terrible. He felt so bad about not being able to be here. And now Sam has known Jimmy since he was a little kid, screaming at the top of his lungs, standing in his driveway and holding a bottle and squealing at this amazing high-pitched note. But now Jimmy has become, he's a good guy. He's working hard, and he has a lot of knowledge about a lot of the sports stuff. That's why I liked using him, and I loved having him be called Jimmy the C. But so I told Jimmy, I said, don't worry about it. We'll bring you back. And I just know what I was going to do. And I asked Sam, I said, would you mind coming and, sharing some of your knowledge with us? So I appreciate that so much. I really do. And Richard really appreciates it. Isn't that right? Yes, he does. Because it kept him awake. Usually, like, oh no, it's going to be me and you, Cindy. Okay. But anyways.
That just proves Richard is easily satisfied.
Yes, he is. You hear how he treats his wife. He's just like, whatever she wants to do or whatever she wants to say. Anyway, listen, guys, tomorrow we've got part 2 with Denton Florian, and we're going to be discussing all the stuff that happened yesterday. And Denton is a historian, so it's really interesting to hear from his perspective and what he knows about history and how these things play out. This probably is historical, that the stuff that's happened yesterday. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, and he's going to be so great to explain a lot of this to us. But thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate the fact that you guys have stayed with us. And tomorrow we'll talk to Denton. Next week we've got Mike and Brian Falcon from Silver Rock Productions. We have Dennis and Deanie Boyd. They're going to talk about talking to dead people. This is really, this is a continuation of what Dennis had said a few weeks ago, and more people went like, we want more talk about you, how your wife talks to dead people. And then we have, on Thursday, we have Don't Tell Me I Know This. Oh, we have people from Conroe Church of Christ is going to talk about their women's ministry. We've been talking to different churches about their women's ministry, and they'll be talking that. So we got a full week next week. So you guys have a great day. Enjoy your day. Call somebody you love. And first responders, we love you so much. And what's more important, that God loves you even more. So thank you. We love you. See ya.